Welcome to On the Brink with Andi Simon. Thank you so much for coming today. As a listener or a viewer, I can't tell you how much I appreciate how involved you are and engaged you are with our podcast. On the Brink with Andi Simon was created to help you get off the brink. And my job is to find wonderful people. And today I have a very special person to come and talk to you about something that'll help you see, feel, and think in new ways. That's my story. As an anthropologist, if you cannot see it, you cannot think about it, you really can't do it. And so it's in the storytelling that's so important for you to begin to change your own story. And your brain is going to listen, wanting to know what's her story? How does it impact mine? Deborah, thank you for being with me today.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Andy.
Let me tell our listeners and viewers about your story. And then we'll get into your new book called Curiosity, The Curiosity Curve. And that's why we're here today, because I think it's very important to share it. Dr. Deborah Clary, and she does have a PhD, is a purpose-driven leader with compelling message to share. And she was kind enough to bring me down to Louisville to introduce our third book, Women Mean Business. And it was really an exciting time. Her enthusiasm lies in inspiring leaders and organizations to achieve business success through the enhancement of strategic alignment, team dynamics, and fostering a culture of curiosity. And you're going to say to yourself, Deborah really does love being curious, and so will you. She brings a wealth of experience. She had roles in corporations, operations, strategy, marketing, Frito-Lay. She'll tell you a little bit about that. Coca-Cola, Jack Daniels, and Humana. But her incredible business insights really come from her dedication to commitment to working with leaders who aspire to elevate the impact and contribution of their respective teams. What she's written here took enormous effort. You have no idea. I've written 3 books. I know exactly the effort. And she is here to help you understand why your curiosity really is the charm that you bring to whatever you're trying to do. Deborah, thank you again for being here.
My pleasure, Andy.
Tell the listener or the viewer about who is Deborah and how did we come from all your corporate experience to writing a book about curiosity? Your turn, ma'am.
Oh, thank you so much. So, a little bit about my background. Straight out of business school with high hopes and a ton of aspirations. I went to my first interview at Frito-Lay. I mean, Andy, I was going to be a manager at Frito-Lay. I was so excited. I walked in with my suit and a briefcase, and I walked out with a uniform and a clipboard. They offered me a route driver job in the city of Detroit. So I came home as a Teamster, local 337, and that's where I started my career. And that truck became my classroom. It's because I took everything I learned in business school, and now I was actually applying it on a route truck. I learned how to manage a P&L. I managed how to build relationships with store managers and how to really manage my time. And Frito-Lay started everybody on a truck. There was no guarantees. The way you got out of a truck was running a good route and increasing your route averages. So I spent 9 months there and then finally was promoted. And now I'm a manager at Frito-Lay. But guess what? If a route driver didn't show up, I was back on the truck. So there was a lot of humility in being a route driver as well as a manager. But I spent 10 years at Frito-Lay in various sales and operating roles and marketing roles. And then I was recruited away by Coca-Cola. So I went from salty snacks to soft drinks. And I spent a decade at Coca-Cola. I started off running 5 regions or 5 states in Philadelphia, New York kind of area there, and I was a general manager. And then I took a new role and moved to corporate in Atlanta and was running a global account. That's where I really learned about how business is done internationally. And then I went to the hard stuff because I joined Jack Daniels. So from Coca-Cola to Jack Daniels. And I actually was the VP of strategy in the wine division. And let me tell you, Andy, it was tough. I had to go out to Napa Valley all the time. I had to test wine. I had to work with vintners. But I really began to understand the kind of the passion behind winemaking. It's an art and a science. And I walked away really appreciating what growers and vintners do to put stuff in the bottle. And while I was there, I got incredibly interested in human behavior, similar to you. You're really wanting to understand what made leaders great and what made cultures great. So I decided to go back and get my doctorate in leader development and org design in hopes of understanding how I could help leaders be better as well as cultures be better. And as I was writing my dissertation, I got an offer to go to Humana, $100 billion healthcare company, and stand up a leadership institute. So it
Ah,
would be taking my background of business and then my academic background to do exactly what I was hoping to do in terms of developing leaders that develop culture. And I ran that institute for 10 years. And then we got a new CEO in, and he asked me and invited me to be a part of his team because he wanted his executive team to be high performing, and he was going to be offboarding and onboarding new executives. So I was embedded in that team for about 8 years. And then two things happened. I was on a train going from Florence to Rome on this beautiful fall day, and this Italian man is sitting next to me. A handsome Italian man is sitting next to me. And he says to me, "Oh, are you American?" And I say, "Well, yes, I am." He goes, "Oh, I have the greatest American joke for you. So funny." I go, "All right, what is it?" He says, "What do you get when you ask an American a question?" I said, "I don't know." He starts laughing and then he says, "An answer." Exactly. Like, and my whole time in Italy, I ponder, like, why was that joke so funny?
to him.
Yes. And then when I got back from that trip, I'm sitting next to my CEO in a meeting, and somebody was presenting at the front of the room. And he leaned over and quietly asked me, "Do you think that curiosity can be learned or is it innate?"
Mm.
And I said, "I don't know, but I want to go research it." And I did some research. I came back, said, "Good news, curiosity can be learned." It's
Mhm.
okay. That's really interesting. But it sparked something in me. And that is there's something about curiosity and organizations and performance. So for fun, this just on my own, I commissioned a group of researchers to go study this. Is there a relationship between performance, curiosity, and leadership? It took them 3 months. They came back and they said, "Oh, guess what? There's a direct correlation between those three variables." And that's when I went to the CEO and said, "I have to go do this work," because I thought about the joke about Americans rush to have an answer, that leaders think they have to have all the answers. And now that I know that there is a correlation, I think that I can help leaders become better by creating a culture of curiosity.
Wow.
Yes.
The journey is wonderful because
Thank
there was
you.
no straight line from where you started to where you came to. You
No.
opened yourself and was curious. And curiosity itself has been propelling you to really think about what can I do to help people do better? Well, maybe it's this thing called curiosity. So, as you came to terms with the fact that these connect, how'd the book come together?
So I had the research, right? And so now I have to weave it into a narrative and a story. It has to be as an author yourself, the book has to be approachable. And so I started writing, and then something happened to me. I have a group of women. We're in a mastermind group together, and we were together all through COVID. What are your hopes and dreams? How are you managing all of this? They came into town August of 2022, and they said, "We have a surprise for you, Deb." And I go, "What's that? I love surprises. I love a good time. What's happening?" And they go, "Your idea for a one woman show? Yeah. We pitched it to a producer, and you're booked." And
And
I'm
I
like,
attended.
"No way, I'm not going to go do that." And they go, "It's too late. Go to the website. You're already booked to do shows in New York in 1 year." So I put the book on pause. I started writing this show, and I connected with someone that was a playwright in New York, and they said, "We're happy to take a look at it." They took a look at it and they pretty much said, "This is really bad. Like, this will not play in New York." And so I had to find people that knew how to write a play. And so I found people that could adapt it to stage, direct it, produce it. And so for a year, I did this one woman show. And in the spring of 24, before I started writing. Like, okay, I'm heads down now writing the book. And it's a lot of ups and downs, as you know. But then I just took this 4 decades of experience in understanding and navigating complex systems and the research, and then wove it into a story about the power of curiosity.
I attended your show. It was wonderful. You are a wonderful actress, but you also talked about all the expectations in life and things that surprised you. And I thought it was a curious way to begin to build a relationship with an audience as your life became their life. It was wonderful. Now,
Thank
though,
you.
let's talk about what is curiosity. Can we define it a little bit for our viewers and our listeners so that they know it's not magic? It's something they probably have experienced, but never knew to name in some fashion. They may actually have said, I'm curious, tell me more, and done it
Mhm.
sort of slightly. Help them. What is curiosity from your perspective?
So, curiosity is being genuinely interested in yourself, in others, and their situation.
Ah.
It's as simple as that.
Now, if I'm interested in myself and you and the situation you're in, I'm curious then about how curiosity became the focus of so much of your life right now. I mean, you are really on a mission to bring it to business leaders and to businesses and to people.
Mhm.
So I'm curious, why now and how does this now propel you forward? Because you have a great little quiz on the website associated with a curiosity curve. How curious
Yes.
are you? And in taking it, you begin to ask yourself, should I be more? How do I become more? Help us.
Mhm. Well, you think about the current state we are in organizations, not our country. I'm just talking about in organizations and corporations. Gallup will tell us they in their latest engagement scores, they've never seen this in the history of measuring engagement, the number of people that are disengaged,
Yes.
right? So there is this people are not connected to the work. And specifically, millennials who make up 35% of our workforce, their disengagement is in the 60%. Now, why this is so important is because this is the age group between 29 and 39 that we would be developing for senior leaders roles in the next decade. So they're telegraphing, we're not interested in doing that. So now there's a talent pipeline. So two things happening, productivity is low and engagement is low, and now you're looking in the next decade, we're in a world of hurt.
Yes.
So we did a focus group of just millennials after we did this other research, and we asked them, what's the source of your unhappiness, like what's happening? And it came down to one thing: is my leader doesn't know me and doesn't care to know me.
How
Now
interesting.
you back that up, and so we asked more questions, and it's not like know me that I have 2 kids and a dog, and no, it was, what do I have to contribute to solve this problem? What is it that I want to do with my career, and how can I continue to make a greater impact? Those were things that leaders weren't asking. Now, I'm not blaming everything on the leader. The reason that leaders are incurious is because time constraints, right? They've got a lot to get done. They've got pressure on them in terms of their results that they have to achieve. And then you mirror that with, well, I came up through the system, so I know what the answer is. And so you come into my office, I tell you what to do, and then you go off. That's not how you grow an organization. It's not how you grow the next generation of leaders, and you're
Yep.
not going to get the greatest results.
Well, and it isn't just the people in this next generation, it's people. I mean, and while we look to a particular cohort, I have a hunch that the demands or the expectations of making work meaningful and giving me purpose have been with us for quite some time. An
Yes.
interesting sidebar, and then we'll come back to curiosity. One of my daughters is a professional and very successful. And I had asked her how work was going, and she said, "Mom, it's work. For you, it's always been your purpose. It's always mattered. For me, it's a great job." And I said to myself, how interesting the same things can be meaningful in a more expansive way or not. And I have stopped asking because it's not something that she necessarily wants to throw back at me, but we clearly approach this in different ways. and her success is terrific, and she's well respected, but it feels different. So coming back to your millennials and not feeling engaged, that leads me to be curious about what can we do to then engage them and get leaders to begin to see them as not just people with a wife and a child or an outside hobby of some kind, but what will make them care about what they're doing, give them purpose and meaning, matter.
Mhm.
Your thoughts?
Yes. So the number one thing leaders can do is invite questions.
Ah,
Right? So create an environment where people feel comfortable to raise their hand, ask a question, or challenge the status quo, in that you celebrate people challenging the way things are because their heart is really, how do we make this better? That's the first thing, is making space and celebrating those that ask questions. The next thing, the most powerful thing a leader can do is when asked a question, is to say, I don't know.
mm.
Let's explore this together. I mean, they might have an inclination of what to do. They're not going to know all the possibilities. And so saying, I don't know, but I'd like to explore it. Let's dig into that. The other thing is what I teach leaders is that leadership is the best leaders are those that play the long game, not the short game. The short game is giving an answer. The long game is about exploring many possibilities to solve a problem.
Yep. How interesting. And the best leaders can learn to be um, better by shifting the conversation from, if you have a question, I'll give you an answer, to let's be curious about lots of answers. Let's
Mhm.
sort of roam and see what we could think about that might be of value to you and to the organization. A powerful question, isn't it?
It
When they
is.
when they start to do that, how do they then keep the conversation going or evaluate the answers that come up? These are all new skills, are they not?
They are new skills, but it is one of just the leaders have it in them. They have just gotten off track. So it's one of, when you're in a conversation and you say, let's explore this together, who has some ideas that could help us solve this? And you keep it going. And you come to a point and say, of all these solutions, which one do we want to explore further? Which one do we want to take action on? Right. So because you think about it, if you're continuously exploring and you take no action, that's not satisfying, right? It's one of, let's explore, let's pick a direction, and let's go see what happens. So we're testing and we're learning. There's a hypothesis and we're going to go test it. And guess what? It might fail and you'll say, all right, we tried it. It didn't work. What are we going to do next? So it's kind of celebrating, well, that didn't work. Now let's go to the next thing. Like, make failure an okay proposition.
Yeah, the whole world of mistakology is a whole industry unto itself. Learn from the mistakes because they're more powerful than the things that go well. And you begin to learn and grow bigger when something doesn't work the way you thought it would. And this is so really quite interesting. As you're out there in the field, then tell me, can you share some case studies of clients or maybe that you're working with that are beginning to apply this and finding good results? Is that
Yes.
appropriate?
Yeah, absolutely. So we talked about the curiosity quiz, or the curiosity assessment that we created, and it's a validated diagnostic tool. And so it measures four areas of curiosity: exploration, openness to new ideas, inspirational creativity, and focused engagement. Right. So the work that I do with executive teams is everyone takes the assessment. It's a 6 or 8 minute assessment. And so we now know the current level of curiosity of individuals, teams, and organizations. So the example I'm sharing is, there was a group of 10 executives. 10 of them work for the CEO, so 11 people in total. And I was leading a strategy session, which was 2 day session. But the last day, we took a couple hours to do the curiosity assessment. So they took it in advance, and I began to show them their numbers. And going into this, they had said to us, we're losing market share, we're losing margins, lower retention, and our competitors are launching products faster than us. Right. Well, when I saw their assessment, 10 of the people scored really high on openness to new ideas, and only one scored low. And so I showed them the aggregated information, no names attached. And I said, I'm really curious, if most of you are curious about, or are open to launching new products, why are you not launching new products?
And
And the individual that had the low score raised his hand and said, "That is me." He was the CEO.
oh my goodness.
And so we'd built up enough psychological safety over the next 2 days. So I opened it up to the team. Does this feel like an accurate assessment? And it was absolutely. We do, data analysis and market share analysis, and we bring it to him, and he says that won't work. And they did this for a
Oh
little
my
bit. And then he
goodness.
said, "You know what? I'm the founder. I think I know best, but now I'm wrong. And I apologize. And I'm the one that's holding us up, and I'm going to change." Now that is powerful in terms of knowing others and knowing self, and then saying, "I can do different. I can be better." It was a breakthrough.
Oh, that is a breakthrough, even in our conversation, though. It's in the stories, as you mentioned in your book, where the theory comes alive. And my goodness, I can imagine the dynamics in the room when all of these movers and shakers have a boss who says, no, that's not the way we do it. Deborah, it's so interesting because when I get hired, I often get put in a closet. I specialize in helping organizations change. Sometimes it's strategy, sometimes it's culture, sometimes it's product innovation. But the word change or improve or accelerate is always the catalyst for my being hired. And one of the things that comes through is that they immediately start to say, no, we don't do that. And the resistance is so profound, I sometimes feel like they lock me in a closet. And I said to one CEO, you're all about change. The market's changing, the industry's changing, but you haven't changed. Oh, I have to change. I said, well, if you don't, they won't, because they're not going to risk their jobs waiting for you to get around to telling them it's okay to risk something. It's so interesting because oh, the resistance humans have to something so necessary, which is, how do you adapt? How do you move faster? And the problem was quite clear. Fantastic illustration.
Mhm.
One of the things in your website around the book is you say, in order to be inspiring, you must first be in its presence. Explain that a little bit, if you don't mind. I thought that was a really profound statement, and I wasn't quite sure I understood how you had presented it. Please.
So if we want to inspire others, we have to be inspired ourselves,
Ah,
right? So I can't inspire you, Andi, if I'm showing up in a depressed state or a lonely state or just an unhappy state. Or even just, I'm just uneven, right? Or even, if you will, in terms of how I show up. And so, in order to be inspiring, you have to be in its presence. So this is about what would inspire me. So what inspired me was doing the research on curiosity. So you can tell I'm all in on curiosity. And I hope when I speak with people, they get it too and saying, wow, there's something here. I want to know more.
yes. Well, but your illustration of that client is profound. And I have a hunch during these fast changing times, there are far more CEOs, entrepreneurs, small business owners, large business leadership who would rather go back. I think Peter Drucker had that great quote. In times of turbulence, it's not the turbulence that'll get you, it's trying to survive with yesterday's ways of doing things.
Mhm.
And change, though, is human brain hates it. The cortisol goes flying around and saying, flee it and fear it and fight it and don't, please don't. But you're raising the point that many people are embracing change and they enjoy it. They're curious and they want to see how things can improve what they have. And they see the problems, but they need the okay and the enabling and the support, the questioning CEO or leader or manager who can help them come to some closure and actually try stuff with a culture where making risks and making mistakes is acceptable, as long as you don't do it too often. Was it Procter and Gamble who gave awards for products that didn't make it? And they said that's terrific, and we're going to give you an award for closing it down. Just don't do it too often. And it's hard to appreciate how hard it is to get a post-it note or a WD-90 or to really, really survive in a time of fast change.
Mhm.
Now, as you work with people, have you now developed an approach that's systematic, something that you can share in terms of how you go into a company and begin to provide the questionnaire? Can you give us a little bit about your process that would be helpful for the listener?
Well, it certainly depends on what they're trying to get done. But let's say that they're trying to create alignment on executive teams. And you know this, Andi, that is probably the number one issues that teams have is misalignment.
Yep.
And so we do the assessment, meaning each team member takes the 6 or 8 minute assessment, very quick to do. And then I go in and I talk about the power of curiosity. So why do you want to listen to this? Most people think curiosity is a luxury. It's not. I've got science. I'm going to show you why it drives performance. So first I take them through why you should listen. And then I say, but guess what? You're off the hook. It's not your fault. You're incurious. So I go into all the reasons that we've been taught to be incurious. And then I say, but we can get it back. So we go then into, let's take a look at your current level of curiosity under those 4 factors. And then we talk about what is a plan that could create curiosity within your team. How could we increase curiosity? Because curiosity can be learned and curiosity is contagious. So they walk away with a plan to be more curious, and they walk away with accountability in terms of how they're actually going to measure it and hold each other accountable as an executive team to create a culture of curiosity.
Change those work, and it doesn't come without some small wins, some process, some structure to it. I have a hunch you also build in there how they're going to talk about it, come together, and have a curiosity session, make it something actionable. Yes, or do they all
Yeah, absolutely. We have a framework that we take them through, and it's as simple as, right, when you're creating an agenda for a meeting, where have you put in space for questions or ideation?
Ah,
Or where are you creating space to break through barriers? Like, how are you having those conversations? And this doesn't necessarily have to be in a meeting. This happens so frequently. You're in your office and someone comes in and says, do you have a minute? Do you know how long a minute actually lasts? It's like 40 minutes. So like, so it's right. So it's like, I just got a quick question, but then it turns into a long conversation. Those are the opportunities, even on one, to help facilitate questions that help them think. And when you do that, what you're doing is you're building their confidence that they can solve a problem. And it also builds uh, their confidence that you think, oh, I'm worthy of solving a problem.
yes. Yes, it's really cool. And I do think what you're creating is a different relationship. And that leads to all kinds of wonderful things.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit. If they want to engage with you, where can they find you? And if they would like your book, how can they find it?
All right. Thank you, Andi. So my website is just my name, which is www.debraclary.com. And on there, you can set up a call with me. I'd love to have a conversation with you around curiosity or any other topics around leadership. And then the book can be found on Amazon, and it's called The Curiosity Curve by Dr. Deborah Clary.
Isn't that cool? I have a hunch you're open for lots of speaking engagements as well.
Yes.
Yes, I know. And you are a great speaker. Are you going to do
Thank
more
you.
one-man shows, one-woman shows?
I have been asked to bring it forward again in a bigger way, so I'm contemplating it. As you know, it's not easy, doing an hour show by yourself on your feet, memorized music and cues and all of that stuff. I do love it, and I think it was called The Curious Woman. It also promotes curiosity.
Yep.
So I'm in contemplation right now.
Well, but in some ways, it and the book are you. And I think what's so exciting is that you've been able to take who you are, your curiosity about things, your desire to help others, and turn it into a whole way of living. And I think it's just wonderful. Deborah, it's been
Thank you.
wonderful talking with you today.
Thank
So
you.
let me wrap up. For those of you who have come, I have a few things I don't want you to forget that came out of Deborah's talk. One of which is that experiential learning is essential for you to learn. And when you listen to her experience driving the truck for Frito-Lay, it was all experience. And all of her journey hasn't been with a particular destination. It's been with a very personal desire to learn more and do more. She's curious. You need to think about your own journey. And if you're going to get off the brink, it may not be a bad time to ask yourself some questions about, why not? How could I? And not simply nix everything that comes up. Make a whole board of white ideas of great ideas and begin to think through which ones can I test. The second thing is that the disengagement in the workplace, it doesn't have to stay there. And I'm really concerned about even my own clients who have sometimes not such great scores on employee engagement. It's in your hands to begin to build engagement. So think about, ask questions, learn more about me, give me purpose and make me meaningful. Is it important that I'm here? Are there a couple of things you want to add, Deborah, or am I doing okay sort of summarizing us a little bit today?
You did a beautiful job of summarizing it. Thank you for listening.
Well, I also made my notes here because I think the cure, the whole, I'm not saying cure, is ask questions. Don't have answers. I love your interview with that Italian who said Americans, oh, they all have answers. Well, you don't need to have the answer. I know that sometimes I fall into that trap of trying to be the consultant with the answer instead of the coach with the question. And it's not hard to fall into the wrong place. So it's been wonderful. You can get Deborah's book on Amazon. You can get our books on Amazon. Women Mean Business, Rethink, Smashing the Myths of Women in Business, and On the Brink, the background for this podcast all came through at Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and your favorite booksellers. Um, and I will tell you that the podcast was ranked 18th among the top 100 podcasts on the topic of change. And I must tell you that I'm honored and it's a privilege to be able to bring you great people like Dr. Deborah Clary so that you can see, feel, and think in new ways. It's been wonderful. My mantra, my little tagline is take your observations, turn them into innovations. Be curious. And Deborah would say, yes, ask questions, don't have answers, but really think about what you can do to open the minds of those who work with you, as well as yourself, even your family. Please don't shut down all the curiosity that your kids have. It's not necessary to have all the answers. Let them discover things. And in the world of AI, it's all there for discovery. Just ask the right questions. Deborah, thanks again. I'm so glad you came today.
Thank you.
Bye bye now.